Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcast. You're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Empire Media, AMPIRE. Always much appreciated when you tune in. Don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. Daily camp updates from myself and every other NFL Nation reporter. So do some one-stop shopping, learn about the Commanders, but also what's going on elsewhere around the NFL to keep you as informed as possible. And if you want to become a member of the show, Empire Media YouTube page, see the word join, click on there, find your membership level, and go from there. For you gold members, I will be doing another private Zoom at 6 o'clock Friday night, wrapping up that first several days of training camp. Whatever question you have, bring them there, and we'll have a good time as always. So join me there. Today, it's day 2 of training camp. Let's get to it. So more red zone work. Dan Quinn is really focusing on this. He's, again, I told you yesterday, it's something different for him, but I kind of like it because this is where you make your money. You have to be good in the red zone, and they haven't been that way in a few years. So this is where you have to go. And I think for a young quarterback like Jaden Daniels, for any quarterback, but a young one, really good to get to know what to do in there. And I will say Daniels has looked pretty good in that area, especially compared to Marcus Mariota. So, and I'm going to get into more quarterback observations later, but I will say, by and large, the big difference is you're not seeing Daniels hesitate as much as you see Mariota. Now, sometimes it could be going against different defenses with different personnel, whatever. But I still think that Daniels does a better job of making a quick decision or getting through his progressions to be able to find some plays that are maybe open on the other side, as we've seen him do a couple of times. And there were a couple of times where Mariota had it had 2 scoring throws, but I wasn't sure on those plays. Those are plays that was a 7-on-7 work, and you kind of look at it and you say, I don't know that he gets that off if there's a pass rush, because that was extended for a long time. And at some point, if you're holding the ball for that long, it's going to result in some guys getting open. But again, you don't know until you're out there with it. And so that's the same with Daniels. I mean, you don't know how a guy handles it against a pass rush. That's going to be something to see later this summer. Anyways, on the first day of practice, they only went for about an hour and 10 minutes. Today it was about 10 to 20 minutes longer than that. As Dan Quinn said, they want to kind of ramp up and work their way back up and get into those 2-hour modes. So that, like, the first day of pads, for example, isn't expected to be until Monday. Listen, it's a league thing. Like, it's 4 days and with the shorts. So Sunday would be the last shorts day. Then Monday should be pads as they, again, continue to ramp up. So that's one thing. Before practice, we always talk to Dan Quinn before practice, probably around 8:40 or so. Practice starts at 9. One of the things he talked about today was Jamin Davis and working him as an edge. And just, we've obviously talked to him a little bit about before, but just the thought process there. Clearly they like the speed, they like the length. So they're trying to see what else can he do, because you did pretty much displace him as a starter with Wagner and Luvu. And then also they like Jordan McGee. They also have a couple other veterans that have been with these guys. So that's one of the things that's one of the reasons you work him there. It's also, listen, you're trying to work a guy in another spot. You're saying they have to find something for you to make you a valuable part of this roster. So he's been working there, but as Quinn said, and I told you this before, like, there's so much to learn. It's not like you're going to go down there and, oh my God, he's great. It takes a while. It takes a while to learn how to dip the edge, right? To turn the corner, dip a little bit, maybe how to use your hands properly, being able to read an offensive tackle to know how is he setting and how can I counter that. All that stuff is going to be new for Jamin Davis. So early on, it doesn't look great, I would say, but you can't measure. It's not a final result here. This is a step in the process. So, and that's what Quinn said. It's going to take more than 1 or 2 days before he knows what he can do. So they're going to wait till the end, whether it's camp or right before the season, whatever it is, to see, because he does have those traits that they like, and you want to maximize. Guy has speed and length. You want to see what he can do. You don't give those guys up easily. And that's why it's the same thing with, again, I mentioned this the other day, De'Ami Brown. He has speed. You don't get rid of guys with speed easily unless you just think can't do it. So anyways, that's one of the things that he was talking about. And, haven't seen Davis do a whole lot there. I did see him try to do a couple spin moves today against Brandon Coleman. I really liked how Coleman handled the block. And Davis starting the outside, spins the inside. Coleman with really good footwork, rides him to the inside. That's one of the things that Coleman does well is that footwork. It comes back to his basketball days, folks. But that's one of the things that, and he does have good length. And, so that's one thing you saw. But can Davis add value as an edge guy? That's one of the things that we're going to see as it plays out the rest of training camp. Quinn also talked about John Ridgway and Fedarian Mathis. He likes, because remember, he had Ridgway in Dallas, and they had him on the practice squad. My understanding was they liked him. They just didn't have a spot for him on the roster. They didn't necessarily want to lose him, but they couldn't keep him because they didn't have a spot for him on the roster. But he likes his conditioning, likes where he's at with his techniques. With Mathis, one of the things he said, he seems to like him a little bit. Certainly like that. There were some flight issues for Mathis coming back before reporting to camp. And in fact, he had to fly to another city, ended up driving here so he could get here on time. He said he could have gotten here on Tuesday at 11:30. He'd have been on time, but he got here earlier than that because he was determined to do that. That stood out to Quinn. Now, got to translate to the field, got to show something there. But Quinn liked the mindset and the desire they showed there to get here. But again, it's got to be on the field, folks. I could do all that. I can't go out there and play. So Mathis has to go out and show it on the field to see, like, hey, he warrants a spot. One of the differences with the D-line in general, too, and talking to people, talking to, just a few people, and this is going to compare it to the last 4 years. So when Sam Mills got here, as you know, like it was an open secret covering the team, especially, and we would drop it once in a while, or mention it once in a while, that they did not like Sam Mills and how he taught them. And part of the problem was like a guy like John Allen, for example, they wanted him and the other guys to use certain techniques. And I was like, listen, I'm really good with my hands. That's my strength. He felt like they were trying to take that away from him, and that didn't work. There was a lot of chafing, not just by him, but by all of them, or by a lot of them, because they felt like they were not giving them the freedom to use what works for them. Under Daryl Tapp, it's the opposite. So under Daryl Tapp, the mantra has been like, hey, try this technique. If it works, great. If not, go back to what you're doing, what makes you successful. Now, if you're not successful doing it, they're going to work on that. You're going to have to alter it. But if you are successful, a guy like Allen or Payne, for example, they're going to let them do what they need to do to get from point A to point B. And, a lot of times with coaches, like these guys, a lot of players are talking about the freedom to do things. And it doesn't mean freelancing by any means, but it means freedom to use, like if they say, okay, you got to be here at this time, how you get there is going to be up to you with the best way you can get there. But if you're not getting there, that's a problem. But you got to get from point A to point B at this time. If you can do that by doing X, Y, or Z, then do it. If not, then they're going to help you with A, B, C. But there's freedom to do it the way you feel you need to in order to be successful. That's a big difference from the past. It was too married to doing it a certain way before. And again, it never quite worked, as you could see. I think that freedom extends to the defensive backs as well. And for Saturday's podcast, you're going to hear Craig Hoffman and I talk about this, but freedom to make a play. And some of that freedom comes from being, kind of on this particular coverage, you only have to worry about this particular route. So you can jump that route. If it goes out here, don't worry about it. Your job is to cover this route and make a play if the ball comes here. That's how you create big plays. Allowing them to, when you talk about playing fast and physical, it's simplifying process, right? Or simplifying responsibilities, not simplifying the defense, but responsibilities. If you give them multiple responsibilities, what happens? You create a slower player. And I think that's what happened here. These guys aren't slow, like in most of these guys, but if you give them too much, then it slows them down. I think that's what was definitely happening. But you hear that from I've heard that from multiple defensive backs now about the attention to detail and how much greater it is, but also the freedom to play a certain way and to make plays. And that's why I think they're excited about it. Listen, this defense worked in Dallas and they're bringing it here. The mindset, how it does here, you don't have Micah Parsons, you don't have the same personnel, but if you create that mindset and allow them to play fast, they will improve. Then you're going to have to go get better players at some point, but you allow them to improve, you allow them to play a certain way, you will get better. More on the field. So punt return work, just a few things. Jamison Crowder, Dax Milne, Kaz Allen, Jahan Dotson, Manuel Forbes, all those guys were returning punts. So Crowder has always been the first guy working there in that group for what it's worth. I like watching Zach Ertz inside. I brought this up in the spring, but there's a reason why this guy, and I'm going to post this on the shorts page, but there's a reason why this guy has lasted as long as he has. It's because he's always working. And I just appreciate watching him, and they're giving him pointers on how to do certain things coming off the ball, the way maybe your arm has to come through, and then the way you're cutting open on the route. They're doing all that stuff. So if you want to see that, it'll be on the shorts page at some point, but it's a good example of a guy who has lasted this long, who feels really good about where he's at and where he can get to, but also continuing to learn and to grow. I think one of the things I see with Dan Quinn is a definite growth mindset. I'm a big believer in that. And I see that with some of those players as well. And that's where I think Ertz has shown it's why the guy lasts. And it's why he can still, if he can stay healthy, can still make an impact. Cornelius Lucas was at left tackle again. Brandon Coleman was with the second group. Quinn, as you know, likes the word superpower. It's Joe Gibbs super smart. For him, it's superpower. The superpower for Lucas is size and length. So, and I brought up yesterday about how sometimes you see him bend at the waist a little bit, but what you also saw is, like today, another example of that length, and that's seeing Dante Fowler against him. Fowler's got to go wider because he knows he can't, but he has the length to do it. So you got to try and beat him wide, and he got too wide, and he was just able to push him out. Now, his footwork could probably be a little bit better, but that length helps negate some of that, right? And it's where he can be effective. Now, again, can he be consistently effective against, there's some really good pass rushers in the division. All I'm saying is that his size really helped in that situation. I do like what I've seen from Coleman so far, and I'll be curious to see how he looks when the pads come on and when they get into those joint practice situations. But I think that will be very telling. And that's one of the things that's best about seeing those things. You learn a ton. So the other thing I was going to say, I think the length helps Coleman. That's all I want to say with Lucas. They're still rotating the defensive backs a lot. And so you're going to hear some about them. It's not a big deal. They're rotating. That's what they did in the spring. Nothing has changed. But the first group has consistently been, from minicamp to now, Forbes and St. Juste, Quan Martin and Jeremy Chin. And so that's where the group is going. And I think Forbes has been off to a solid start so far. See where it goes, pads, other team, but off to a solid start. So, and I'm a big fan of Quan Martin, and I think Jeremy Chin's going to add a lot. The other guy that I really have liked so far, and this goes to spring and even today, undrafted free agent safety Tyler Owens. Dude is big. And I think he's going to carve out a role. Like, at the very least, dude's got to be on the practice squad at the very least, because it's going to be, I'll be curious to see how they decide the safety numbers. You got Jeremy Reeves, you got Derek Forrest still there, Dominique Hampton, like him. But Tyler Owens is going to be a guy to watch. He had one route. He's big. Let me see how big he is. I forget the actual dimensions for him. I have my roster right over here. I forget the actual dimensions for him, but he's a big dude. That's suffice to say that. But let me see. And you're probably saying, well, you already have it memorized. I don't have it memorized. He is 6'2", 210. He's a big dude. So what I like too is he covered Chris Rodriguez on a little wheel to the back of the end zone. Really good, or actually it wasn't in the end zone, but a wheel route. Really good coverage. Rodriguez made an unbelievable attempt, almost caught the ball on Owens' helmet, but the coverage was really, really good. That size, he used his size absolutely to his advantage. Then the other thing I like, during some of the special teams work, during some of the drills, he was always getting praise for where he was at and how quickly he got there. So it was just a drill where they have two sides. They have a guy fielding a kick or punt, and the punt return's job is to make a move and make one guy miss. That's the goal. For them, it's like they would kind of rotate in a circle. They have two guys going in a circle, and then ball would get thrown. They have to go upfield and get him. He was always in his couple reps. He was the first guy there, and he was there in a good bit before the other, or a good bit. It was by a step or two before the others, but just a really good job. So again, just a guy to watch. I think he's going to be someone who's interesting, whether it's now in the future, to develop for sure. And oh, by the way, I did talk to Tressway afterwards. I asked him about the number. Is number 10 official now? Because that's what he's wearing. The one thing he said is, I don't hate that number. So it sounds like it's probably going to be the number. I don't know that it's official yet, but it certainly sounds like that will be the number for Way moving forward. So there you go. I really like how Jaden Daniels plays with good tempo in that red zone area too. I think there's a lot of times with Mariota, it feels like he holds the ball too long, and you're not seeing the same level of effectiveness. And it's funny because he is the veteran. You would think it'd be kind of the other way around, but it hasn't been. And that's held true since the spring. I do think Mariota has value. I think he's good for Jaden Daniels. I've heard people again talk to who are close to Daniels who will say that they'll bring it up unprompted. He's been really good for Jaden Daniels. I think Mariota understands his role. So whatever narrative about there existed from the Atlanta time here and in Philly, because Brian Johnson's the one who wanted here, he's been good for Jaden Daniels. And I don't think that's going to change. I think we all know, I always joke that competition at quarterback is between Jaden and Jaden, right? It's not between, if Daniels is looking good, it's his job. And everybody knows it, including Mariota. He was a former number 2 pick. Daniels number 2 pick. He knows the deal. That's what you do it for. But anyway, Emmanuel Forbes, again, I felt like he had a nice day. There was one where McLaurin got behind him, but otherwise, there were several routes where I thought he did a really nice job and good, tight coverage. One where McLaurin is he's all over him. McLaurin has to reach back for the ball, but because of the length for Forbes, he was able to knock it away and make force an incompletion. There was another time, an outbreaking route where he's right there, forces an incompletion. So I feel like Forbes told me after practice that he's playing with good confidence, and you could see that. So, and he feels like he's matured as a player and as a person, but mostly as a player, because that, you have to mature as a player, right? That's what he's doing out here. But anyway, good job for him. Frank, there was one tunnel screen to McLaurin where Luvu was right there, and one of the defensive guys yelled out, "You're a bad man," for that, of course, is his number. Sam Cosme talked to us after practice, talked about Frankie Luvu, and said there aren't a lot of linebackers can put a move on and also give you a bull rush. So that's where I say Luvu was going to be a good pass rusher. What I liked when watching his film after they signed him was exactly that. I felt like he had more of a plan than I'd see from most linebackers, and just how to set guys up, and then how to use a move, how to use one move now and use another move off that later in the game. And you saw that with him. And I think that's what Cosme was talking about. Cosme did stop him one time where he tried a little spin move inside. Cosme stopped it. But I think he's a big fan of Luvu's, and he should be. I think that guy's going to be a good player here. Cosme also had a couple good lines. He talked about, somebody asked him about the difference this year with running the ball and how he was frustrated last year. We all know that. He said, basically paraphrasing, they were last in rush attempts and had one of the most pass attempts in the league. And he said, you saw where that got us. And the other thing he said, and this speaks to who he is as a player. First of all, he looks like a guard now. He's just, his body looks more like a guard's body. He's got the longer hair. He's got the beard. He looks like a guy who belongs in that, he looks like a hog, right? But he looks like a guy who belongs inside there. But he did say, I want to be one of the best in the league. I'll be dirty. I'll be nasty. I won't take shit from anybody. That's his mindset. And that's not a BS line from him. That's how the guy plays. By the end of the year, he was really good. In fact, in our ESPN rankings, where Jeremy Fowler talked to coaches, executives, et cetera, for top 10 guys, I thought he was going to be listed as a top 10 guard, and he wasn't. But that's where I thought he had gotten to, but he was really good, and I expect big things from him this year. And again, going back to Jaden Daniels, he just looks more comfortable at times than Mariota with a lot of stuff. Now, you have to always know, what are they asking him to do, et cetera, but he does look comfortable. And they are rotating those guys. And so when Mariota may go first in 11-11, Daniels may go first in the 7-on-7. He may go first in a Daniels may go first in a red zone drill, et cetera. So they are mixing things up a little bit just to give them some more reps with different guys and to make sure that you're not just stuck. It's not going to be a rotating, one day you're the starter, one day you're not. They need Daniels to progress. He's not going to progress if he's starting off as a number 2 and that's it. We all know he's going to be the guy. They just need him to get there. And I don't think they're going to see anything this summer that's going to tell them, oh, they have to wait. That's just, I don't see it. So there was a couple of good plays, a nice ball, a really good fade to Mitchell Tinsley. Nice route to get open in the back of the end zone. Good catch. And this is just going back to D-line. Cleveland Farrell, and you can see the savviness he has against the run, his ability to read, made a nice run defend in today in one of the drills. But anyways, Luke McCaffrey doing a couple nice things. There are times where he's still learning. And one of the things I like about him is I do like the way he extends to catch the ball. I think he catches it pretty well. Still learning the depth on some routes. There was one play in the red zone where Driscoll throws it to him and the ball is off. And it looks like, is it an errant throw? Is it a misfire? Or is it a missed route? Well, it's a missed route because after the play, then wide receivers coach Bobby Ingram takes him aside, talks to him for about a minute and just kind of goes over, this is what you need to do on this route. And if you're at the right depth, then it's a completion. But that's the stuff that you have to learn. Those are little subtleties of the position for McCaffrey that he'll get used to. So I think that's a good thing. Like this is where you learn, folks. And so when you make mistakes, you can learn from them. And that's what I think he's doing. Then they also had with Daniels, this is where, again, I think this is what I like about the details. They had one sequence where they put 16 seconds on the clock. And the goal is you're going to work it. You're going to get a throw in. You got to get the ball back to the line of scrimmage. You got to spike it so you can get the field goal team out there. So on this one, there was throws a little out to I can't remember which receiver it was, and they get it. They all sprint to the line of scrimmage, put the ball down. They spike it at like 5 seconds. So a good job there. And then when they did almost like a 2-minute situation, it was like a minute 25 on the clock. So a get the ball down the field movement job. I felt like Daniels did a good job there, and I felt like he knew when to go for it. There was one he had McCaffrey. McCaffrey makes a nice move to get open down the field, just a little bit. It's a couple yards too long, but a good job of McCaffrey getting open. It just didn't work. And then on the same, I think it was like 2 plays later, same drive. So they're going like you got to keep converting first downs. So on one, he gets to Zach Ertz over the middle. Ertz with a nice catch and run because the ball came to him on time and in rhythm. And that's where Ertz is going to make a big difference. And it's funny because one of the knocks on Dan's, he didn't throw over the middle a lot because LSU didn't ask him to do that. You had the talent on the outside. They didn't throw a lot over the middle because it wasn't what they needed to do. But that's why these guys got him, Ertz and even Austin Eckler to a lesser degree. But that's where Ertz has done that a few times since camp open or since spring practice and all that. And then he also had a good, he threw a fade to another receiver that was broken up, but he did get a nice job on a touchdown pass to Jeremy McNichols. So on the play, he has to extend the play. There is a rush, and he looks left, gets back, starts to drift to his right, but it was the patience and the poise that he played with as he's drifting. You see McNichols just standing by himself. There's a defensive breakdown. Sees McNichols standing by himself, hits him, he leads him right into the end zone. Touchdown, nice job. But what I liked on the play from Daniels was the patience and the poise and not forcing him, and that got him the score. So there you go. That's the wrap up from practice. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back on Friday with another practice report. As always, thanks for tuning in. And you Gold members, join me on Friday night at 6 o'clock Eastern time for a private Zoom session. Let's go get them. Talk to you later.